Kell Brook, Hell King Brook. The pioneer of this thing that started this whole trend of fighting the boogeyman 2 weight classes up. And that's Gennady Golovkin, Triple G. Thanks to Kell Brook, a lot of fights have been taking place. A lot of negotiations have been made, and a lot of people have spoke. Billy Joe Saunders, he's finally now stepping up. Chris Eubank, he's been talking for a while, but he's supposed to have been talking before Kell Brook. However, I think those fights now will come to pass. Now you have Danny Jacobs that, took on the challenge, and hey, it wasn't so bad. If you come in at 180 pounds or 175 plus, it's not so bad. Good move though, no facetiousness here with that, at all. It's just what it is. People now are throwing around a lot of things. This is the first time Gennady Golovkin has went 12 rounds. It's the first time that he hasn't knocked out an opponent, obviously. Now a lot of things have been said, like, is he getting older? Is he getting slower? Was he exposed? And the thing about it, it's you're dealing with, to answer all those questions, and I will answer those questions, but I'll do that in a minute. But what I really want to get across to everyone is that Gennady Golovkin will be 35 years old this coming April. Okay, he's not a spring chicken. And obviously the objective now is for other fighters is to take that O before he leaves. Because I see Gennady Golovkin, I don't see him this time next year. If he's fighting this time next year, woe will be unto him, because I don't think that there should be anything else to prove, after he gets all the belts. Because he will either tie Bernard Hopkins' record or beat Bernard Hopkins' record, maybe by this time next year, depending if he fights 4 fights this year like he plans to. We really don't know that. And then after that, he can step down, because I don't see him going to 168. I don't think he would want to have any interest of going up there, you know what I mean? Messing with those big guys. But, it would be something to see. It's a challenge, right? So he's getting criticized for doing so. However, back to my point at hand, Gennady Golovkin, I think guys are going to come forth and to take that O. And now it's a task, Is he getting older? Is he getting slower? Which one is he doing? Well, to answer your question, he's probably doing both. He's, you're going to get a little slower, and he's getting older. The thing is he's showing his age, or maybe it's just the heightened of quality of his fighters, not taking nothing away from Gill, Murray, Lemieux, Rosado, and countless other guys that were in the top 10, at that time. Not Rosado, because Rosado did come up to 154 to fight Golovkin. But, maybe it's because, the quality of his opposition has raised significantly with Danny Jacobs with 1 loss. And he gave him a good fight, because Danny Jacobs did not come to lose. He did not come to survive. He came to win. And when a fighter comes to win, they're going to fight you back. And that's what happened in this fight. So make no mistake about it. Gennady Golovkin can be beat. Anyone can be beat. Floyd Mayweather can be beat. Chocolatito Gonzalez can tell you he can be beat. He can be decisioned, right? All it takes is a blemish on that record. That equals a loss, And that means you've had a defeat, right? Derrota, right? So you have those. And this can happen. This is reality. This is boxing, A guy, you look at it, a guy that's 35 years of age that hasn't been beat. He came close. It was a close fight, but, he won at the end of the day. I think he did pretty good being damn near 35, fighting a light heavyweight, and fighting someone with Jacob's style. I don't see him getting any better than he was that night. I don't. There's no excuses with that. That's the way he fights. He He wasn't working the body profusely like a quote unquote Mexican style, like they marketed him, because I mean, that's for the Mexican fan base. I get it, but he's not like a Chavez, right? So, he is a Kazakh, he, uses the jab. He doesn't really move his head like, most European fighters. The only thing is he punches like hell. He punches hard, but those punches can be taken, and Danny Jacobs has proven that, yeah, you can get dropped, but you can get back up and, and fight another day, right? And that's what Danny Jacobs did, and he did a hell of a good job doing it, right? So now guys are not going to fear him. And I think the whole thing about it, you had all these boxers at 160. You had Quillen. You had Billy Joe Saunders. You have Andy Lee. You had countless of guys. You had Danny Jacobs, Eubank, Lemieux. You had all these guys at middleweight. These fights just weren't happening. You know what I mean? Like, no. It was always something like, no, it's not a big enough draw. No, I'm not going to do this. And no one wanted to fight this guy. David Lemieux, he had the punching power, but he didn't have the boxing ability. That was his problem. He didn't have the reach. It was a lot of things against David Lemieux. He didn't have the ring IQ. David Lemieux is a fighter puncher. If he can punch you, he'll knock your brains out. But if he can't punch you, he's in trouble. Ask Golovkin or Rubio, because they were the ones that took him out, right? But, and even then they called Lemieux a bum, right? Because, he's not a good boxer. Okay, point given. Then Kell Brook comes up, boxer, an undefeated welterweight champion, WBO champion, that comes up to fight him 2 weight classes, and to really enlighten people on that whole situation with Kell Brook. Kell Brook was having trouble making weight at 147. So you really can't say, yes, his fighting limit was at 147. That's what his current level was. That's what he was a champ at. But he was having problems making weight, okay? So you got to put that into it, that was kind of that helped him a lot because he didn't have to lose that much weight, So that uppercut that you seen him, put to Golovkin's face and nose and busted his nose all up and had it all bloody in UK, right? At the O2 Arena, right? That uppercut was probably the strongest uppercut that he ever landed because he was at a different weight class, right? I think his power carried up because he didn't have to starch himself no more. Okay, so let's be clear. So this was a guy that was going to go to 154 pounds anyway, and if he beats Errol Spence Jr., depends on if he beats Errol Spence, if he can get past Errol Spence, and if he can't get the Pacquiao fight, he will go to 154, and he'll probably have to fight guys like Lara, or Andrade, right? Or Andrade, right? The American pronunciation. So, guys like that are Charlo. But the thing is, he was making trouble at 147, so he had to come up, and it was a helping for him. So it really necessarily wasn't, a guy that was at 147 and had to eat and get up to 160. You know what I'm saying? Of course, he was fighting in a new weight class, and I get it. I understand what they're saying, but Kell Brook, you didn't see him look, he looked like he deserved to be. He didn't look like a blown up middleweight. You know what I'm saying? So he looked like that weight fit him well. So, and I don't believe Golovkin said, I don't feel it. I don't think that he was in trouble when he got punched, but he definitely felt that punch, So kudos for Kell Brook for doing so. But now the question is, where does Golovkin go from here? Does he obey what he said? It's pretty much now he has to. He has to fight Jacobs again because Jacobs is going to be a top 10 fighter. He hasn't lost any credibility from that loss. He wasn't knocked out. He wasn't back shelled behind all these other fighters because that's what would have happened if he would have got knocked out. You know what I mean? In any round, he got knocked down, but he showed what he was about. He showed his heart, right? So he has to fight him again. You know what I mean? Because you got an undisputed middleweight champion. The only guy that has a belt left is Billy Joe Saunders. So if Golovkin goes after Billy Joe Saunders and gets him out of there, okay, Jacobs is still in the mix. So eventually, if it's not the next fight, which I hope, because that's what he said, a rematch. He didn't say I'll give him the rematch immediately. He did say rematch, so I can see themselves getting themselves out of that fight a little bit. Max, no, I said I would fight him. No, not next fight, no, but eventually, So stuff like that, but Jacobs will have his reckoning with Golovkin, or should I say, Golovkin will have to reckon with Jacobs again, because there is some unfinished business. And I feel the same way about Canelo and Lara, and that's one of the marks that I have against Canelo is because you can't say something to the public and don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't say, oh, I'll fight Golovkin next, and that don't happen. You fight someone else. You see, he did that 2 or 3 times. So I can understand Golovkin's frustration for fighting Canelo. But speaking of Canelo, I think Canelo would now and sees that fight. Like, I know, well, you know what? I think I have a better chin than Danny Jacobs, even though I'm really a super middleweight or whatever, and he's really a middleweight. But I still think, because Canelo's not known to have a weak chin. But I mean, he hasn't been tested. We got to find out, like I said before. We got to find out how he takes Chavez's punch. If Chavez can punch at that weight limit that he's draining himself to make. So, but I do believe that fight will happen now because Golovkin, has, it seemingly is showing signs of wear and tear as he gets older. You know what I mean? Hey, that hourglass is, that sand is fading. You know what I mean? And it's not like it's not one of those things that will never happen. It's going to happen. Make no mistake about it. Golovkin fought a good fight. He fought a bigger guy out there, a taller guy, just as strong. I'm not going to say who was stronger because they were both strong guys. You know what I mean? Both good boxers. The speed belonged to Jacobs. The power belonged to Jacobs. The power belonged to Golovkin. The knockdown belonged to Golovkin. The ring IQ belonged to the ring generalship basically belonged to Golovkin. The ring IQ belonged to Jacobs. So, yes, they fought a good fight. It was a tactical fight. What do you want from these guys? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they both could have done more, but they didn't want to get knocked out because they both had power. 2 guys with a 45 and they're pointing at each other. What do you think they're going to do? They're just pretty much going to stand there for a while to figure out who's going to pull the trigger first. That's how it was in that fight, because they both had guns. And then, they knew what they had. They respected each other's punching power, but what does that mean for Golovkin and other fighters? Canelo would more than likely want to fight him. And I could see a fight with Canelo. And Canelo's a better punch. He has better punch placement than Jacobs. A lot of Jacobs' punches now, his flurries, and I call them flurries instead of combinations. He landed some decent combinations. The difference between combinations and flurries are punches that are not full power, but they're quick. And Danny Jacobs threw a lot of those. Combinations have full power on them. Then they're exercised in the gym by muscle memory. Okay? And I said in my earlier videos that Danny Jacobs threw a lot of flurries. Now, he did throw some combos, and they had some sting on them, okay? That's defined a combo, right? So that's what he was dealing with. But the thing is, he didn't do enough of that. And a lot of his punches, he was punching on the arms, but he was doing a good job to look good, and I don't know how that affected the judges because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, but I feel Canelo throws better combinations than Danny Jacobs, and the thing is, he might not have the footwork like Danny Jacobs. Of course not, Mr. Cement feet, but he does have good punch placement and he does have a good upper body movement, and I noticed how Jacobs was using quote unquote finesse. You don't fight fire with fire like his trainer Rozier said. You fight it fire with finesse. That's what Jacobs was doing. He was doing the shoulder roll, and then I seen that was awkward for Golovkin. So that made me think immediately, well, damn, if Golovkin did go and fight Floyd, how would he deal with that? Because, he couldn't deal with it with Jacobs, right? So he had problems with Jacobs, even landing the jab, when Jacobs was being cagey and, turning his body, eliminating the target, right? So that's what that's what the purpose of that is, the shoulder roll, So the thing is, I see a good fight between Canelo, and don't be surprised if that fight happens in September now. You know what I mean? Because that's going to be Canelo's second fight. Because if he figures if he can get Billy Joe Saunders this summer, Golovkin, he'll get that belt. Then he'll fight Canelo in September. And that's how that's going to go down, because I see Canelo saying, you know what, I can beat this guy. You know, and it's not, I don't think he felt that way before. And if he did, if Canelo did, and I'm talking about Canelo a little bit, you know, if Canelo's not quote unquote scared, okay, I think he was once in control of his career. Because remember the Lara fight? Lara called him out on stage. He accepted the challenge. But remember, Oscar De La Hoya was in rehab because of his substance abuse problem. I'm glad he got that fixed, you know, or working on that, you know, because, but when Oscar De La Hoya just came out of rehab, that fight was about to happen. I think Oscar De La Hoya got out maybe a week or so, maybe a couple weeks before that fight happened. And he didn't want that fight to happen, you know. But after that particular fight, you know, I feel that Oscar took control, or back in control of the fights that, or governed the fights that Canelo had. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because it was like, you know, after that Lara fight, you didn't have, you know, the Cotto. You had the Cotto fight, and that did good. It did 900,000 pay-per-view buys, you know, almost 1 million. But, you know, it was good for Canelo, and that was a good win for Canelo. But after that, you know, that was then he's supposed to fight Golovkin. And then all this hesitation and procrastination and all this talk, you know, habladera, right? All this happened, and these guys kept talking and kept talking. You know, and then the excuses start falling and fluttering in, right? So that lets me know that Canelo, even though he might have wanted to fight Golovkin, I think Oscar De La Hoya was like, no. And I think Canelo, from fighting Lara, had enough experience, you know what I mean? Or knew at that point, like, okay, I should listen to Oscar De La Hoya because he does know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Don't go up there to 160 because, again, remember Oscar De La Hoya went up to 160. Well, he fought at a catch weight of 157 and fought Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard Hopkins knocked him out in the 9th round by a body shot. So, you know, for that reason, I think De La Hoya was trying to stop Canelo from making that same mistake he did. You know what I mean? Because it's, you know, I mean, you can learn a lot from someone that's already been there, you know. And I think Canelo is, because if you notice, Canelo is saying everything like Oscar De La Hoya. They're in sync. You know what I mean? I think after a fight, Canelo will say, yeah, I'll fight him next, because I think he's just, you know, charged up from knocking out someone, right? Because he knocked out his last 2 opponents. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that Canelo is listening to De La Hoya, and they're in agreement, and, you know, and they're in conjunction. So they're in sync, which is a good thing. But I think De La Hoya now is convinced that it's time to put his boy in front of Golovkin. So now I look at it. Now, depends on how the fight goes with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. You know, so that's his guy that's his objective. That's his project, right? That's his assignment, to take out Chavez Jr. And I think Chavez Jr. has just as much determination, just as much as Danny Jacobs. So don't be surprised, man. Don't be surprised if this particular fight happens the same way that Golovkin Jacobs happens. Something controversial. You know, no one really loses faces, because it really wasn't a clear-cut winner, because, you know what I mean? It goes 12 rounds, and they're like, oh, I think these people win. Oh, I thought this guy won. Then it'll be something like that, because I think Julio Cesar Chavez with Nacho Berenstein, you know, I think he's actually trying to fight, and then he's trying to be that next big boy, that next super Mexican superstar. And I think that fight's going to do really well, like, you know, not, you know, regardless of the styles. I think it's going to be stylistically a good fight. But I think also that it's going to do good for the pay-per-view, you know. I'll go to this pool hall and at Fast Eddie's, and it's a lot of Mexicans, a huge Mexican following there, right? So when that happens, man, they're there. They're just in crowds. You know, they support their boys. So, you know, I'm going to be there to see it and check it out, you know. But a lot of people, man, are going to, and then whoever. And I think whoever wins that fight is going to fight Golovkin. It might not be Canelo, but it might be Canelo. You know what I'm saying? So Golovkin has a lot of people that's knocking on his door. They're knocking on his door, and they want to fight now because now they're not scared. They're not hesitant. They're not afraid. They're not quote unquote concerned, right? Concerned meaning scared. You know what I'm saying? So I really feel that Golovkin now, he's getting exactly what he wanted. So all the fights is ironically the fights that he really, really wanted like hell 2 or 3 years ago, he's going to get now. The question is his age, will his age play a factor? Because, he did take punches for fun, but a lot of that was against guys that he knew that he, had no threat to him whatsoever, And I'm not talking about Kell Brook. I'm talking about a lot of other guys. Willie Monroe Jr. What's the other kid? It's a kid from D.C. he fought. Dominique. I forget his name now. But it'll come to me. But, he'll let him hit him with, at will. But will all that come into a factor? Will any of that be a factor with Golovkin? And I believe the answer is yes. The thing is, can he pull it off? Does he have enough fights left in his tank to take out these guys that now they're coming for us, and before they weren't, now they are, And it's an aggravating reality, but this is what it is. Now Billy Joe Saunders is popping shit like he's always popped shit. Canelo, you don't be surprised if he says something, on the grounds of, hey, let's get it in there in September, take the 15, take it or leave it, and all that bullshit. Eubanks Jr., he's still going to pop. He's already popped shit, So you got all these guys. Julio Cesar Chavez, they've sparred. Canelo and Golovkin sparred too. So all these guys have sparred. So, and I love that sparring match. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put that link under the description, let you guys check that out. And that would be a balls to the wall fight stylistically because of how they fight, and that would be a treat. You know what I mean? Canelo Golovkin or Chavez Jr. Golovkin would be one of the fight of the year candidates. You know what I'm saying? Because then you would have guys fighting in a phone booth. Body, head, head, body, head. That's what you're going to see all night. In the corner, in the middle of the ring, all over the ring. That's what you're going to see. Right? So, they look good. So now the cavalry has came. They're coming out the woodworks, and they're all there for Golovkin. So, again, you got to thank Kell Brook for that. You know what I'm saying? Because he's the pioneer that started this whole thing. Hey, I'll fight Golovkin. Fuck it. Why not? You know what I'm saying? So now, thank you for Kell Brook. And Janie Jacobs is in continuing that path. This path will still be walked. And these guys are coming down that path. So the only thing you got to ask yourself now is, will Golovkin be ready? So you guys answer that question for me. That's my question for you guys. And thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Check me out on Facebook, Counterpunch Boxing News. And I'll have the link below. And you guys all been counterpunched. Peace.